and welcome to another empowering session brought to you by CRN Global, a federally corporate non-profit organization built by international students in Canada. Today, we have our honor to welcome a highly respected academic leader, Mr. David Fox. David is a dynamic higher education curriculum development expert with the deep experience transforming post-secondary education in Canada right now and currently serving as professor and program coordinator, business, accounting, and law programs at Trios College. It's a real pleasure to have him here to share his thoughts with our community. Let's get started. David, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you very much for inviting me on the podcast. I'm really excited about our discussion.
Thank you. We are also very excited. And David, to make this conversation more impactful, I'm going to ask you some questions that I think gonna really help our audience. Let's dive into the discussion, okay?
Great.
My first question to you is, David, to start us off, could you please tell our viewers a bit about your personal and professional journey? Which part of Ontario are you originally from, and how long have you been associated with Trias College, and what are the programs you currently manage?
Sure. So I am, we'll start with that last part first. I'm the program coordinator, as you said, for business and accounting with the Sault College in partnership with Trias College. So I have been working in that partnership for about 4.5, 5 years since I started within the partnership. If we work backwards from the start, I'm from originally Southern Ontario, so just about 45 minutes east of Windsor,
Mhm.
Detroit. Um, and I grew up there. I did a bachelor's of science in business administration, majoring in accounting at a school named Nichols College in Massachusetts. I then worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers in Springfield, Massachusetts, and Hartford, Connecticut as an auditor and tax associate, and I earned my certified public accountant license. I then continued on to law school at Western University, or what was then called University of Western Ontario. So I was in law and ultimately a partner in international law firms for more than 20 years. Throughout that time, however, I was always creating what we'll call continuing education opportunities, seminars for lawyers or for other financial professionals to learn new things that are developing in tax or in corporate or in business. Did some lecturing internationally. So I was doing that throughout the law career, and it was something that I really enjoyed. And so I got to a point during COVID
Mhm.
where I was the lead tax person on what was called the COVID Business Resiliency Hotline. So this was a
Mhm.
call-in line for people across Canada,
Okay.
all coast to coast up north. There was a partnership between the firm I was working at and the government. And so there were a lot of, as you will remember, during COVID, governments had to roll out economic support tools very quickly to
Mhm.
try to keep economies going. Um, People's businesses were all of a sudden threatened and their livelihoods overnight. And so there were a lot of business supports and government programs that the government of provinces, territories, and Canada rolled out. And because they were rolled out very quickly, there were a lot of questions surrounding them. And so that was the purpose of the Business Resiliency Hotline. People could call in, speak with somebody, and
Mhm.
ultimately, if the people that answered the phone couldn't answer the question would come up to me. And so that was a really it was a fascinating but it was a very, very demanding summer, spring and summer. And I I realized that if I wanted to continue to grow the types of learning opportunities, very practical kind of learning opportunities, if I wanted to continue to do that, then I thought that a master's of education would
Mhm.
be helpful. And so I enrolled and I earned a Master of Education from Wilfrid Laurier University out in Waterloo.
Mhm.
And from there, I moved on into full-time curriculum development, full-time instruction, and coordinating the program. So I I am absolutely I'm passionate about teaching. I love working with learners of all ages,
Mhm.
and uh, trying to help them find success for them, whatever success is. And success differs for different people. So I
Yes.
consider myself really fortunate to be in the profession and be in education as I am.
Thank you, David. That's awesome. Actually, I think we need more people like you who wants to help the community. Like the way you are thinking, it's really amazing.
Oh, thank
Uh,
you.
welcome. My second question to you is, from your profile that you are incredibly passionate about teaching students and their success, of course. What do you personally love about most about teaching in a post-secondary space?
I'll tell you what I love about it is you get in a post-secondary institution, you're going to get students, learners from all sorts of different backgrounds. And they have many, many different um, pathways that they want to go down, different types of jobs, careers that they want to pursue. And everybody is a little bit
Mhm.
different, right? So
Yeah.
we learn from one another, and we learn what I really enjoy working with students and working with them to find out how do they best learn? How do
Mhm.
they where what is it that the light, the light goes on?
Yeah.
Because it's different for everybody, right? Whether it's
True.
visual, auditory, review, whatever it is. And I would say the favorite part of what I do is when I see students who, come in and they maybe need it, they maybe not, they're starting a course and they work at it. They engage with the materials, they engage with the instructor, and there's a point in time where you see those students, they're just like, I get it. Okay. And
Yeah.
then once they get it and they start applying it,
Yeah.
it's just it's a wonderful thing. And I would say that probably every one of our instructors in the business and accounting program with whom I work would say the same, would say something very similar about just loving to see students grow
Yeah.
intellectually, but also personally, see their confidence increase,
Mm-hmm.
see them doing things that they weren't necessarily the most comfortable with before. That's just a wonderful, wonderful thing to be a part of.
I can connect with your answer, to be honest, because I had been this journey. I have similar journey, whatever you're talking about, the students coming into a new, country and they have to struggle and learn things and they look into their mentors and they are seeking for their guidance and everything. It's another topic, I would say. Uh, David, for now, let's shift to something really serious right now, which we are
Okay.
facing in Canada right now. Let me ask, especially after the Canadian government's policy shift in February 2024 regarding international students intake. From your perspective, what does the future of international students in Ontario look like over the next few years?
Hmm. It's a very good question. Um, I'm certainly not a politician. I'm not in the rooms, be it at the federal level or the provincial level, of the politicians when they make these decisions. So I can't indicate that, well, this is what's going to happen. What I believe is that, we've got two levels of government here that are impacting what's happening in education. The first is obviously the federal government. And the federal government constitutionally is responsible for immigration. And so the federal government got to a point where they determined that, they felt the need to pull back on the number of students coming into the country, because they felt, based on what they said, that, um, they wanted to slow it down a bit to examine the education that's happening in Canada. So the immigration component, and they also supported it with some comments about kind of housing, access to services, which maybe a bit more political than real. But so we have the federal government and Immigration Canada, which really is what we're dealing with, is the decisions that were made then by them. The provincial government, however, constitutionally is responsible for education. So, be it Ontario or be it British Columbia or Manitoba or the Yukon Territory, when we talk about what is the direction of education, post-secondary education and international education, we've got to keep in mind that we've got different levels of government and multiple governments. In terms of how many students come in terms of the different types of educational pathways for them, those have been changed somewhat with the government's. The government has, number one, they have cut or they're phased out of public-private partnerships between public colleges and private institutions. Typically, those public colleges are in northern or rural or remote locations, and they wanted some sort of presence in the larger centers where many students, particularly from Southeast Asia, come from. India, the Philippines, places like that, where the preference is to come to Toronto or maybe Surrey, BC, or maybe another large center. So the public-private partnerships are no longer providing. The students that were in the public-private partnerships at the time of the announcements are grandfathered, but new students are not. The pathway to permanent residency is not a clear one through a public-private partnership anymore. So, and another thing that's happened is that the government has changed or made more limited the categories of study and careers, professions, for which the students can, international students will come into Canada and have that straighter access into the postgraduate work permit program. So a focus on STEM, focus on trades, agriculture, early childhood education, healthcare. I might have missed one there. We know from certain studies that have been done. One was, I believe, by Veritas, which is an international education provider. By 2030, 10 million international students are going to be looking to migrate for post-secondary education, and that 40 million students will be seeking international credentials in their home countries or in another country. So with the volume of students that are looking for international credentials, international education, or looking for some combination, like 2 years in their home country, 2 years maybe in Canada or in the UK or in Singapore or in wherever. We know that the international students, newcomers to Canada, are going to continue to play a very, very important role in education and in our economy. If I were to summarize, I would say the decisions by the federal government were very, very blunt. I think they targeted a 35% reduction in international student visas, and I think they were around 50% the last time that we saw that. So that has exceeded what the government was
Mm.
targeting. We know, at least as of about a month or so ago, that approximately $2.3 billion has been lost owing to the changes in higher education, directly or indirectly. 600 programs, at least about a month ago, 600 programs have been cut or furloughed, and
Mhm.
10,000 people who worked in post-secondary education maybe a year ago have been laid off or have been terminated. So I hope that recognizing the importance of international students to the Canadian economy, to Canadian post-secondary, I hope that we move through this, and coming out the other side, we see more partnerships, we see more pathways, we see lots of opportunities, not only for students to come to Canada, but for Canadian students to go elsewhere. Because
Yeah.
whether we're talking about business or banking or
Mm.
medicine or law, everything is international. To say that there's an
Yeah.
international student, a domestic student, they're students. And I think
Yeah.
that's how we've got to start looking at it, is education's international. And how can we best serve the students?
Thank you for explaining this so nicely. Really, it's just amazing the way you explain these things to our audience. David, I would like to ask another question. At CRN Global, we are strongly believe in the role of non-profit organizations in
Hmm.
supporting education. How do you see these non-profit organizations, particularly ones leveraging social media, contributing meaningfully to the Canadian education system or landscape?
Okay. Um, yeah. So if we look at education, um, whether we're talking about, and again, I don't like to talk about international versus domestic. I like to talk about students. If we look at post-secondary education, we look at students, we know statistically that there are challenges that are faced by many, many students, be they newcomers, be they temporary visitors, be they have, domestic students. There are challenges, very serious challenges with heightened mental health concerns. There are challenges just being away from home for many, and in some cases, halfway around the world away from home. A school, an individual institution can't, like, they can do their best, but they can't cover everything. And there are students that are going to be more comfortable seeking assistance, because that's the key, is
Mhm.
at the very least, we want students to feel like they can seek assistance, because that's getting over that bump is a significant thing. At least if the students are talking,
Mhm.
then that's good. It's when they won't talk, when they're keeping to themselves, that we are, we don't know. So I think that s- nonprofit organizations are critical in terms of providing additional specific and general services and supports to all students. I think that nonprofit organizations such as yours are a source of tremendous information to other students, to other people, to the population. I think nonprofit organizations are important are critical in terms of, there are gaps in the curriculum, right? We can't teach every single thing in every class. And so there are gaps, whether they be knowledge gaps or maybe skills gaps. And so I think nonprofit organizations in particular have a tremendous role to play in helping to fill those types of gaps, providing very specific, hyper-specific skill training or knowledge that is going to be important for students looking to start their careers. So I think that well-run, targeted nonprofit organizations play an incredibly important role, not only in education, but in our economy and in our communities generally. And I would commend you and your nonprofit organization and your team for doing what you're doing, because it's a very, very important and significant contribution.
Thank you so much, David. We understand and we already observe that people like you who are industry leaders, they always encouraging us to, serve the community. So we are trying to do that also. Whoever wants to come in Canada or already in here, we try to serve them, help them to our community. We're incredibly grateful to you for your valuable time and thoughtful insights. I would say your work is an such inspiration for all of us, whoever we know you through trials. And today we are honored to share your voice with our audience of international students, newcomers, and aspiring professionals across Canada.